Hi, AJ Hartley here, novelist, Shakespeare professor, and baby metal fan. And this is my 8th video, I think. I'm getting close to the end of the first album. I haven't done a Black Baby Metal song, so I'm doing Yon no Uta, or Song of Four, which sounds like a Sherlock Holmes novel. Again, as ever, yeah, I don't know that I have a lot to contribute to what is already out there about this. Fans of the band, I'm sure, have already looked at this lyrically. It's a fairly simple, straightforward song, and there are some interesting things about it, most of which have already been said, so I will keep this fairly brief, though I think there's going to be a little rant in the middle, which you might find interesting or offensive. Your mileage may vary. Enjoy. Okay, so let's begin with the obvious. This is a song about the number 4. Not a lot of those come along. And obviously the tempo is set up to emphasize that, and the dun 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 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 yon. Okay. So what? Yes. So in order to make sense out of this song, and it's a silly song, it's a playful song, I'm going to talk about some things that are comparatively serious along the way, but let's not lose sight of the fact that it is a goof, you know. So in order to understand the song, we have to understand the basic premise, right? Which is that in Japan, number 4 is considered an unlucky number, like 13 in English-speaking cultures. There are 2 counting systems in Japan. One which is actually sort of derived from Chinese import, which goes ichi, ni, san, shi, go, roku, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's a native, a little less common counting system which goes hi, fu, mi, yo, right? And that's often used in combination with talking about specific things, numbers of things. Hitatsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu. Fu, mi, yo. Yo becomes yon in combination with a lot of words. So the 2 4 numbers are shi in the Chinese version, which is the most common, and yon in the indigenous Japanese. And the root of the idea that shi, the common number for 4, is unlucky is because it is also the root of the word to die, right? So it's associated with death, and therefore it's considered unlucky to use it. And you'll see that this is less common than it used to be, but you can still find Japanese hotels that don't have a number 4 floor in the same way that Western hotels don't have a number 13 floor. Kind of hard to believe that people actually will refuse to stay on the 13th floor, but I guess that's true. So this is a song about why 4 is not an unlucky number after all, why it shouldn't be considered an unlucky number. And it begins as a children's counting song. I should say that this is a black baby metal song, which is to say that it doesn't involve Sue. It's just Yui and Moa, who supposedly wrote this as part of a school exercise or something, I forget, while they were traveling. Whether that's true or not, I don't really know. But the idea is that it's performed just by the 2 of them. They're called Black Baby Metal when they perform by themselves. I'm not entirely certain why it's Black Baby Metal. Obviously, there's a form of metal music which is considered black, but I don't think that this really is that. It does use more rap, and in this case, a little reggae break in the middle, so maybe it's supposed to partake a little more of black musical culture, but that seems fairly thin. But yeah, it begins as a counting song. I'm using the official Zimmer compilation video here, so you get to see a little bit of Yui and Moa out of costume doing what I assume is a sound check of some sort. So the first verse, Ichi no sugi wa ni, hey, ni no tsugi wa san, hey, san no tsugi wa yon. Okay, so 1 plus 1, after 1 is 2, right? After 1 is 2, after 2 is 3, after 3 is 4, right? So as I say, it's just a counting song. Okay, so now we go in the opposite direction. Nana no mai wa raku, hey hey, roku no mai wa go, hey hey, go no mai wa ya. Like so, nana no mai, 1 before 7 is 6, 1 before 5, 1 before would help if I could count. 1 before 6 is 5, and 1 before 5 is 4. So you know, it's just setup. It's just play. I mean, this is almost terminally cute. You know, there's a point at which the sort of cute overload gets, you know, a bit much. But anyway, so shiwase no shi. So 4 is for happiness, and I'll show you the I've marked it so that all the things, all the examples that they produce in the course of the song, all the words incorporate the syllable shi or yo. Right? And so instead of, they're saying, instead of 4 being simply associated with death, with bad things, here are some of the other things that she and yo are also associated with as a way of resetting what the number means. And again, it's just play. It's a goof. But so 4 is for happiness. Shinu janai shi, so it doesn't mean to die. I mean, actually, it does mean to die, but it doesn't have to mean to die, I guess is what she's saying. Shippai no shi and yoroshiku no yo. Shippai no shi is sort of an interesting one, because shippai means failure. This seems to me very Japanese. That while we're listing all the great things that are associated with shi and yo, one of them is failure, which I think is really interesting. Failure as a positive, which is very un-American. But I think there's some value to the idea, right? That failure is something that we experience, which hopefully allows us to get better at things, right? I was, this reminds me, I was in Kyoto, I don't know, a little over a year ago, and I went to, there's a sword museum there, and I was watching a documentary made by one of the sort of master sword craftsmen. I wish I'd got his name, because the video was fascinating. One of the things that he said was that when he was a young apprentice working with a master swordsmith, and he was in a group of other students, and he was very self-conscious because he didn't think his work was up to standard. It wasn't as good as the other students in the class. And the master took him aside and said, "It's good not to be good at things." And this is like, and the master swordsmith now, and the guy who was the student, who's now, 30 years on as a master swordsmith, recounts this as this sort of great moment in his life, and it's fascinating because it's very Zen in a way, the idea that that embracing your failure um, makes you better at things, right? Recognizing your failure, that being automatically good at stuff makes you in some ways lazy. And I think this is a very Japanese notion. It's very gambatte, that the process, the struggle, is in some ways more important than the end result. Which again is a very un-English, very un-American idea, that when we talk about somebody's sort of journey, we like to talk about, yes, they start in hardship and they have to face lots of trials and barriers and hurdles, but finally they get to the mountaintop and everything's great. And everything before that then becomes prehistory. It becomes the stuff you had to do in order to be successful. And one of the things I've noticed in a lot of baby metal songs is that moment of conclusion, the upbeat, happy thing, is often not actually attained. And that the focus in a song like Karate, for example, is very much on the struggle rather than the achievement at the end of the struggle, which seems to me, very grounded, very positive about ordinary stuff. And I think that this is actually what this song is about. That it's not just about, 4 is associated with really good things. It's also associated with the ordinary stuff, the life stuff, as opposed to the death stuff. So yeah, and then yoroshiku no yon, yoroshiku as in yoroshiku onegaishimasu. It's one of those sort of pleasantries, one of those socially connecting kind of words. It's a community word, difficult to translate. Yeah, so here we're doing our little, channeling Bob Marley or something, and and there is a certain, everything's going to be okay kind of beach vibe to what's going on here, I suppose, and the Yosho and Yokorosho are again hard to translate. I put them as like, come on, and heave ho. Yosho and Yokorosho are effort noises. They're things that you do as you do something difficult or heavy, laboring. And once in Tokyo, I saw a salaryman at the end of a long day working in the office, going up a flight of stairs, and with every single step he took, he went, yosh, yosh, yosh. It's like just walking home was a labor for the poor guy. So yes, all right, let's keep going. Yep, so more of the same. This time we get an oishi in there, which means delicious, tasty. It's just a general positive term. So I want to step back from it a second and talk about this issue of superstition, because if you do like a basic Google search about superstition in Japan, you're going to get tons and tons of websites that talk about how superstitious the Japanese are. And this seems to me sort of problematic and faintly, I'm not going to say racist, but ethnocentric. Let's go with that, ethnocentric. Because, and there are a couple of reasons why I think that this is an issue about the representation of Japan as an essentially superstitious country. And let's be clear, right? Superstitious is a negative term. I mean, we can indulge it. We can be playful about it. Isn't it fun? Isn't it cute? But it's also condescending. And, if you think, oh, well, Japan is more superstitious than, say, America, then the first thing that you have to do is to assume that superstition does not include religion. And if we're going to be honest about it, one man's religion is another man's superstition, and vice versa. This is going to get me in trouble. A lot of the things that focus questions of superstition are often issues of the supernatural, which we don't have an explanation for. And that includes a religious explanation. Now, the history of Christianity in the West is a history of the sort of domination of all other religious forms, the marginalization of all religious forms, pushing them into areas of superstition. In other words, things that don't need to be taken seriously if they don't fit a Christological model of the universe. And of course, different forms of Christianity have done the same thing. From the Reformation onwards, Protestantism demonized things that it was separating from in Catholicism, including representation of the Virgin Mary, for example, anything to do with saints and angels, really. Also, Catholic liturgical or Eucharistic practice, all of which were considered superstitious. Superstitious means not real, right? Things that people believe in that aren't real, from either a rationalist scientific position or from an orthodox religious position. So it's a convenient way of dismissing anything that you don't actually believe in. So the question is Japan a superstitious country, or is it a country whose religious and cultural practices don't square with our notions of religion? Our meaning people in the West. And I think that there are a couple of ways of thinking about this. And if you look at those websites with all the things that they list as Japanese superstitions, you're going to find a lot of them that aren't really about belief at all. For example, I was surprised to see that not wearing your shoes on tatami was listed as a superstition. And that seems to me at least partly about cleanliness and partly about establishing a standard cultural practice, right? Whistling after dark is considered a superstition. You're not supposed to whistle after dark. Well, maybe that's because people live close to each other in Japan, and having everybody walking around the neighborhood whistling is annoying. But there are a lot of things, like you don't put soap in the bathtub, in the ofuro. Is that a superstition, or is that simply a cultural practice? And I think some of this becomes about, there are positives and negatives to these things, as there always are. Japan is in many ways a much more conformist society than England or the US. And some of that conformism is about smoothing out social relations. The negative side to it is that the assumption that everybody is the same, the nail that stands up must be hammered down and all that. I was surprised when I taught in Japan first, and that all the windows are on the left-hand side of the building, so that the natural light comes from that side. The assumption being that all Japanese people are right-handed, which of course is not true. But there was this sort of assumption. Now again, this is not a superstition. This is a cultural practice that emerges from a sense of commonality. And, is it a superstition to stick your chopsticks upright? You're not supposed to stick your chopsticks upright in your rice bowl because it has associations of funeral practice. Again, is this a question of belief, or is this a question of being socially appropriate within a community of people who understands that, right? I mean, we can all, I'm sure, think of lots of things that you could do that's inappropriate. The internet is full of people going to pictures of people in bathrobes at Walmart. And the joke is that this is inappropriate. It's rude. It's not a superstition, but it's a violation of standard cultural practice. So I think part of what I get a little irritated about with this representation of Japan as a superstitious country is that it's a failure to understand the way that ordinary social mechanisms work. I remember, being corrected once. I was peeling an orange in Japan, a little tangerine. And somebody said, no, this is how you do it. In order to remove the peel in one go, this was considered, I guess more aesthetically pleasing, so that it comes off in a long round thing. But I found it a little bit annoying at the time because I felt like I was being corrected on how to peel an orange. And I'm like, I just want to eat the orange. I don't care what happens to the peel. But this was considered a normal thing, a standard thing that I was being instructed into, right? So some of this is about finding ways to sort of fit into a dominant cultural practice that seems to me to be perfectly normal and not necessarily about belief. And that's the other thing about this, that again, not only has Christianity flattened out anything that doesn't suit Christianity, it doesn't allow for notions of the spiritual where I've spoken before about Shintoism in its connection to animism and the idea of spiritual presence in daily life, either, ancestors or other kinds of spirit, kami, inhabiting, animals, or being in trees or mountains, or even in physical objects in everyday life. Is that superstition, or is that a different notion of spirituality and of religion? I mean, from a certain standpoint, going to church can be presented, if you're not in that church, that's also a superstition. And if you're going to church and praying to be rich, in contradiction of like everything that the New Testament says about poverty, then, the prosperity gospel that people like Joel Osteen go on, that's superstition as far as I'm concerned. And it's dangerous superstition because it's self-aggrandizing. It assumes, and I think this is one of the things that Japanese religion doesn't, that participating within that spiritual cultural practice makes you a superior person, something which seems to me clearly not true. If you look at the way that a lot of people who present themselves as religious actually conduct themselves and behave. This is a tangent and I'm going to get in trouble for it. But anyway, that's how I feel. Let's listen to some more. And there's a lot of running around and jumping about and stuff, which I'm not going to show you all of. You can watch the video. It's fun. And, again, contrary to everything I was just saying, this is a goofy, silly, playful song. It's not supposed to be taken overly seriously, though I do think that there are a couple of interesting things that get brought up also in the song. Later on, when they say, sorry, I'm reading this, Shiwase no shi, Shinju no nai shi, okay. Shippai no shi, which I've already spoken about. Yon naoshi no yon. Yon naoshi means like social reform. And that's one of those words that combines the shi and the yo. So as a positive thing of making the world better, making the civilization in which you live better. And I think that's cool. I forgot to say, I missed a verse. I say no she. So yes, so she's for happiness, and vitamin. My favorite, vitamin no she, and that's because we're saying vitamin C or vitamin C, which is the happiest of vitamins, because it's full of sun and orange juice and stuff. I don't know. But the point is that there is no C sound in Japanese. So it comes out as shi. Sa, si, sa, shi, su, se, so. So in addition to the vitamins, the other one that I missed was yorokobi. No, yorokobi means joy, right? Happy. So again, it's a happy thing. So this is all I got. The idea ultimately that the song is sort of a pushback against the idea of superstition and of finding positivity in things that often have negative associations. And again, I think that sense that positivity is also a kind of all-encompassing, it's the stuff of life rather than simply the really, really great stuff, hence the struggle part, the failure part. And that's what it's about. So we're celebrating the number 4, but what we're really celebrating is positivity. And that's all. As usual, please like, comment, subscribe. A lot of people have been sending me stuff, some of which I knew and forgot to mention or didn't get around to, some of which I didn't know. I'm not presenting myself as an expert on anything really, least of all baby metal. I'm merely presenting my opinions out of the sort of strange conflux of my various pasts and experiences. Whether they amount to a skill set or specialist knowledge, I don't know. But that's all I got. So thank you, and maybe I will do Catch Me If You Can next time, because originally I was going to put these two together, but figured I had a little more to say than I thought I would about this. So, okay. Thank you, and talk to you soon.